the crawl space. Without a doubt, my least favorite place in the entire house. Only time I gotta come down here is when something's not going so well. Like leaking plumbing, electrical problems, sagging floor joists, whatever. Never anything good to do in the crawl space.
Sometimes you get lucky, at the same time you get unlucky. I was just tearing up this subfloor in preparation for putting down some laminate before the new carpet gets installed. And as I pulled up the first sheet of this wonderful particle board that used to be so popular in the 80s for some reason, I found that the floor is wet all around this area. So that means that something is leaking. I guess it's probably going to be either the sink or the dishwasher. So now I get to go troubleshoot, but anyway, I guess it's better to find out now than after the floor is completely rotted through. Well, that might be the problem right there. Looks like there's a tiny little hole in the drain line.
That was easy enough to fix by replacing the cheap corrugated plastic drain hose with a nice heavy-duty rubber one. Before I did that, I noticed that there was a slight wet spot on the floor on the other side of the entrance hallway as well, and that after cutting into the wall, I found that that was coming from both the supply line for the toilet, very, very slow drip, and also every time the toilet was flushed, it was leaking underneath around the closet flange. So that brought me back into the crawl space to try to figure out what was causing those two leaks to happen.
I normally try to be pretty understanding of other people's construction mistakes, but there are certain times, like this one, where I feel pretty confident saying that whoever did that was an idiot. I'm guessing it was some lazy plumber who was trying to make his life easier at the expense of somebody else's, so he just cut that entire beam. A nice double beam, which is probably holding a lot of weight and has a lot of weight. It's a heavy chunk of wood there, running over about 12 feet or so. And more than 12 feet, that's got to be about 14 or 16. So he just cut that thing off, and over the years it's been sagging down and separating from the floor. And that explains why my the entrance is uneven, and also explains why the toilet has started leaking, because that plywood has had a little bit of room to move. I'm sure at first it was getting pulled, you know, with the construction adhesive on there. That plywood was getting pulled for a while until that beam finally separated. So that caused the wax ring seal to break on the toilet, and that started to drip a little bit. So I'm gonna have to jack this thing up and figure out some way to fix it. Alright, it's jacked to where I have contact at the top, but you can see that I still have about 3/4 of an inch to go, maybe, yeah, about 3/4, because that's been hanging from there for so long that that it's pulled the plywood down with it a little bit. So I'm gonna have to keep going little by little and keep running upstairs to check and make sure that nothing is going nuts up there, because you can always get some cracking when you move a floor.
Well, I pushed everything up about a 1/2 inch, and normally that's more than you would want to do in one day. The general rule of thumb, I think, is about 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch in a day when you're jacking a house and actually moving the entire structure. The joist that I was pushing on is, I think, somewhere right around here, running in that direction. So one thing that I wanted to do before I went any farther was come in here and loosen up those toilet bolts, just so that I wouldn't risk cracking the porcelain. If the toilet needs to move, it's got to do that independently. First, I also took a shop vac and cleaned out the inside, or took all the water out of it. Same thing in the tank, just because as it picks up, it could break the seal on that wax ring and cause water to flow into the crawl space. Then I would have to crawl around in it. One thing that I noticed as well was that the caulk on the baseboard molding has sunken down, which is because as I jack the floor here, the baseboard is being pushed up with the plywood floor, and the caulk is staying put. So that tells me that it's definitely moving. I also noticed that this toilet, which used to always rub against the wall there on the tank, I thought they'd installed it too close to the wall, but now it's actually fine. So by picking that up, I've fixed the issue with the toilet there. This has probably been like that for a really long time. And then I also noticed here, I just had re-caulked around the tub and repainted this a couple of years ago. And this is cracking, I think because the tub is pushing up on the wall here. So I'm probably going to cut a little bit out of here, cut out that caulk to free up a little bit of space before I go any farther. And oh goodness, how about that? So I'm also getting some cracking over here as well. So looks like I'm going to have to do the same thing and just pretty much just cut out all the caulk around this entire tub.
I got everything jacked up to the correct height, and I got a replacement or a patch made for that beam. It's made out of 3/4 inch plywood. Gives me a couple advantages. One, there's a little bit of reduction in weight this way, and two, it's going to be flat, very structurally stable, and I don't have to worry about splitting. So the reason I've done it this way with the two pieces is really I'm not too concerned about flex strength, or resisting flex, because this thing is not going to sag. It's already a double beam all the way up until pretty close to the end there. I'm worried about shearing. So as that beam drops down, it wants to shear. It wants to move as one solid piece up and down, as opposed to the whole thing bowing. So I just want to stop that shear. So the way that I'm doing that is with the doubled up portion on this end. That's 4 feet that goes way past the cut area, and glued everything together and tacked it just to hold the glue in place, or the boards together temporarily while the glue sets up. And then I'm going to slide this thing up inside that slot there, and I'm going to apply construction adhesive to the back, and then use some structural grade screws to screw through all these marks that I've made on there at even intervals, and that will effectively replace at least one of those beams, and should be strong enough to hold this thing, certainly a lot stronger than the cut beam was before. Well, that was no fun at all. I measured the joist before I cut this thing, so it was 9 1/4. I probably could have gone 9 1/8, because I failed to account for the compression from the weight of the house down on that end. So it was a little bit thinner in the entrance. I had to whack the hell out of it to get it in there. Ended up beating up this end pretty good. Had to, at one point, jump out, run back inside, and grab the mini sledgehammer. There we go. You know what a mini sledgehammer. There we go. So I got it in there. Got about 40 structural grade screws in, holding this thing in place. And now again, the beam, or the post, the doubled up joist beam is good. It's just that right here it was going to shear. So what this effectively does now is it solidifies that section again, and then all this, everything else after that, is just to tie it into the main beam to ensure that this piece, if nothing else, acts as one solid extension of the main joist. And I'm going to let this sit for, maybe I'll give it a day or two, and then I'll take the jack off. That'll just make sure that all the construction adhesive is set up. You know, after giving this a little more thought, getting some food in me, I think I'm just going to take this thing down now. I am 99.9% sure this is going to hold up just fine. So, release the Kraken, or the jack. Oh boy. There we go. I really don't see any movement. I just heard that expected creaking as the pressure, release the creaking. That's what it was. Oh, a little bit of noise when that came loose, but overall, I didn't really see any movement in that joist. So I think once I get, you know what? On the other side I did. That's what it was. That thing isn't attached properly. So, well, it's a good thing I did that. So now I know I need to go around to the other side and jack that joist to reattach it to everything else. Alright, well those guys had about 3 screws holding them together. So another 15 structural screws should do the trick. Let's try this again and see if we have any movement. This would be a lot easier with 2 hands. There we go. Yeah. The jack is free. Hooray for me. It's actually been a couple months since I started this project, and I'm just getting around to doing the video now, but I just wanted to show everything, how it turned out. I got the molding back in place, re-caulked, reseated the toilet, and caulked around the bottom. In the shower, since I ended up cutting all around the top so that I could remove some fasteners and let the tub rise up with the floor,
I just put in a PVC backer board to solve that gap there, and the PVC is never going to have any problems with water. New shower head and a little bit of bamboo for style. And for the entrance, got the laminate down, the carpet is replaced, made a custom transition strip since that was now 3/4 inch lower because of the particle board being removed. New moldings around the baseboard, new moldings around the door, new moldings around the access panel, new access panel. When I was moving the floor register, some ductwork fell down on the inside, so I went back to the crawl space, replaced some ductwork, replaced the floor register, made a custom entrance bench out of some ambrosia maple. It's got a nice live edge on one side and a Purple Heart dovetail holding that crack together. And all of that is the result of my wife saying, let's replace the carpet, and me saying, that sounds like a really easy thing to have somebody do. Well, as is implied by the title of the video, this isn't just about replacing carpet. I wanted to talk about something else. So let's go back to that plumber who cut that double beam for the sake of making his job easier. Now, we don't know exactly what was going on at the time, but it looks like it was probably done so that he could have an easier time getting in the bathtub drain. And it wasn't necessary. There was plenty of room to slide a bathtub drain in there because they tighten down from the top when you put the drain in, not from underneath. So all you had to do was get that drain underneath. I'm guessing what happened is rather than cutting down a couple inches with a reciprocating saw and then using a chisel or something to chip out the little bit of wood from the top, he decided to just cut all the way through, and that would give him enough room to move that beam out of the way, and that way he had complete easy access. Completely unnecessary, and it saved him a few minutes, I'm sure, but it caused me a load of problems from leaking water and having to go into the house and repair the beam, and sagging house, having to cut around that tub. Just an incredible amount of work for what was nothing for him. But some people are just like that. And brings me back to a really old story from the Army when I was like, just kind of in my earlier days. I had been assigned to clean a bathroom, and that's pretty much what you do for the first couple years when you join the Army or the military in general. You clean bathrooms. So I went in to clean the bathroom, and I scrubbed the walls and scrubbed the floors and scrubbed the toilets and scrubbed the shower, and came out and reported that I had finished. And the sergeant went in to inspect, and took a look around and came out, and he looked a little bit surprised, and he said, "It looks really good in there. I don't think I've ever seen the bathroom that clean. I mean, I've made people go in and clean that thing before, but it's never that clean." And I wasn't really sure how to take that. It was kind of an odd compliment, maybe. I was still a little bit younger and figuring out my work ethic and defining myself, but I wasn't sure if I really wanted for that to be me. Do I want to be known as the person who's really great at cleaning the toilet? It doesn't sound like a glamorous title. I think I can do better than that. So, I gave it a little bit of thought and eventually came to the conclusion that, and it's pretty much been my work philosophy since, is that even if you don't take pride in the job, you still have to take pride in your work. Because the job just defines what you're doing at the moment. It doesn't say where you've been, it doesn't say where you're going. It's just something that you're doing right now. The type of work that you do while you're on that job, that's what defines you. That's what says what kind of person you are. And really, more than anything else, it's a good indicator to where you're going. I don't know how many people I've talked to over the years who were too good for their job, for their current job. I have a college degree. What am I doing in here, bringing up a cash register and dealing with idiot customers all day long? Or I'm 40 years old. Why am I cleaning bathrooms, cleaning up other people's messes? They should clean that up for themselves. I'm not going to break my neck trying to make sure this place is spotless for all these slobs that work in here. That's just the wrong attitude. I mean, a lot of times what these people are thinking is that they're too good for the job and therefore they're not going to put forth any effort. But let's look at it from a different angle, right? What does their coworkers see? What does their boss see? What do the customers see? What do their friends think when they talk about how they cut corners all the time on the job? People like that end up being known as people who can't even clean a freaking toilet well. All right, so I wasn't sure if earlier I wanted to be known as somebody who is great at cleaning toilets, but I would say that is a hell of a lot better than being known as somebody who can't even be trusted to clean a toilet well. I mean, it's one thing to work a minimum wage job. It's another thing to not even be up to the task of performing to a minimum wage standard. that's pathetic. And if somebody wants to define themselves as that, they will remain that type of pathetic person for the rest of their life. They'll never advance. I don't know. There's no easy way to say it. There's no way to sugarcoat it. If you do a bad job intentionally, you're just a turd, and everybody's going to see that. So on the contrary, if you're the type of person who gets assigned to take out the trash, and you take out the trash, you see something on the floor, you don't kick it over to the side, you pick it up, put it in the bag, you take it out, and when you're done, all the trash is off the floor. And your coworkers do the same thing. They leave little pieces here and there. Well, you go and pick up the stuff that they left behind. You get the job done. It looks good. It's done right. So then after a while, the people who are in charge of you, your supervisor, the manager, the boss, whatever, starts to say, that's the type of person right there that we want to put in charge of the other people who take out the trash, or the other people who do the telemarketing calls, or who the laborers on the construction site who haul off the debris, or the people who clean the bathrooms, whatever it is. That is the type of person that we want in charge of the other people, because those other people, they're not even capable of cleaning a toilet well. So let's put this person in charge of them. And that's how you little by little start to move up the ladder and move into a job that's a little more suited for what you think you're worthy of. Because let's face it, we all think we're a little better than what we're currently doing. We all think we can get a better job, or perform better, or make more money, and we're going big places, but we're not there yet. So just because you're not there yet doesn't mean you have to just give up on yourself and show the world that you're a useless person and a bad employee and aren't capable of performing the simplest of tasks to standard. If you're not there yet, that means you continue to put forth effort and you set a standard. You show people that you are the person who could be in charge. And eventually, if that job isn't for you, you move on to another job, but you leave that job with people saying about you that you always did the job well. Even if it took a little bit longer, even if you didn't always get along with everybody. There are different aspects to every job, but at least they will say that you performed to a standard, you did the best job you could, and you always tried. So that means that you're going somewhere. That says a little something about your future, whereas whatever the job is only says something about your present, and eventually it will only say something about your past. So that's all I have to say. I hope it's helpful. I know some people might take it the wrong way and get a little sensitive on their sensitive sensitivities, but you know what? Get over it. Some people maybe are still figuring themselves out and figuring out their work ethic. And I hope that's of some use, because it's solid advice. It makes sense. So take it or leave it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video more than I enjoyed crawling around in the crawl space. And more importantly, I hope that this works out for you and that you find whatever it is that you're looking for. Best of luck to you.